what's up guys? I've had a lot of requests for a long time about different takedowns, and I've got a few videos on takedowns that you can look and search and everything for, but this one's going to be a little bit more specific about how judo throws can be applicable in no gi. Typically I just call that wrestling, and because there's a lot of overlap between what judo throws look like and what wrestling throws look like, especially upper body throws, which is going to be more the focus of this. It's not going to be so much on the shooting and the grabbing of the legs or whatever. So we're going to look at these, and so I want to mention that there's a lot of overlap so that there's no kind of question about, well, this is a wrestling throw versus this is a judo throw, whatever. It appears simultaneously in various different systems, and so it doesn't matter. So I'm going to be using, though, the context and some of the terminology of judo so that any judo practitioners that are interested in seeing how these throws may apply no gi or submission grappling or in jiu-jitsu competition versus just strictly gi style judo competition, then this is kind of that reference. So that's my disclaimer. We're going to also look at these primarily from an over-under kind of clinch. We can go double unders, over-under, double overs. We can go Russian ties, arm drags, all these different things, but just for simplicity's sake, for a standard reference point, we're going to start from this over-under kind of pummeling position here like this. So when we're in this kind of position here, I'm going to have an underhook, he's going to have an underhook, and we both have monitoring arms on this overhook side. So this is where the bulk of these are going to come from. Now, the first ones, now some of these will transition, however, from this over-under position into maybe an arm drag or an overhook dominant side or whatever. But that's just kind of for the framework that we're using. So the first ones I want to look at that I think are some of the most useful from here, for me personally, and this is just a stylistic preference, are the Kouchi and Ouchi Gari. Ko is small, so Kouchi Gari is a small inside trip. Ouchi is a major or big inside trip. And the way that we'll look at those on the framework here, there's a couple different ways that you can look to set up the Ouchi, or the major inside throw first, or inside trip first. And one of the ways, a lot of times what you'll see in wrestling is they'll get this all the way over the underhook side arm like this, and the head side will be the side that they trip on over here this way. Now, I personally use a little bit different of a setup. Either I use this underhook side here to try to pull him around me, so I kind of push into him and then I pull to get him to make this step so that we get this perpendicular stance. Once I establish that perpendicular stance like that, then I'm going to take a shuffle step and get my lead side leg in for this trip on this far side leg here, this way. Yeah. Now, this will oftentimes wind me up inside the guard. There's ways to avoid winding up inside the guard off of this one, and we can look at that as well. But as long as I make the takedown, then I've done a pretty good job, right? So once we're here, if I do manage to get him to step this way, like this, and then I go to make that trip, a way that I like to avoid getting into the guard is to do a sit out, right? So when we go here, I kick, and then I sit out this way. So what's happening whenever I do that, as we fall, I hit on the elbow and post over here on the elbow this side. I put my hand inside the leg so he doesn't follow me, and then I sit out, stepping this leg back and kicking this leg up. From there, I can start to drive inside and try to pin and get him more flattened out to that side control. So that's the major inside reap, or the Ouchi Gari, right? So if we're going to look for the Kouchi Gari, the problem with that one sometimes, because that's going to go this way, it's on the underhook side over here, so that's going to be a problem for me if I want to do it to that side. So I need to kind of do something about this lead barrier he has with this underhook here. So a good thing that I can do for that is that I can start to reach back here. So I'm going to go on my monitoring side, I'm going to reach back, post on the inside of his elbow, and then I'm going to drive my shoulder in a little heavier on the other side so my hand can swivel through this way quickly. Once that swivels through there, I'm going up to his tricep, and I'm gonna pike my hips so that I get this arm drag position here. Once I make that arm drag and clear off to this side, now I can either pitch it and try to get my shoulder under his arm, or keep it as long as I realize there's a chance of him retaking my back once we hit, but I can do that either way. So I get here, I'm gonna step back and make the space here, drive my shoulder in, swivel the arm across to the tricep, I'm gonna drag this arm, and then I'm gonna hook here to make the takedown. So this is the small inside here this way, or the minor inside trip Kouchi Gari. I want to have good shoulder pressure once I land here like this, so that I'm already halfway through past the guard, and then I can finish out my guard pass. That's beyond the scope of this video for right now. One more time on this one, just for a couple other details. I get here, I push in, make a little bit of space so that I know I can slide back in just a moment. I swivel through to get the drag on the tricep. I want to slide all the way back a little bit more on the forearm or close to the wrist. I swing this one across here this way, take a little bit of a reaching step, hook all the way down to to the knee on this side, right? So it's almost as if I'm tripping myself on this one and falling into his leg. When we're learning basic kind of hip throw from judo, then a lot of times what we'll typically have is a collar and sleeve kind of grip like this, and that's a standard kind of position to start from when we're looking at a lot of these. But since we've already established this over-under kind of control like this here, if I want to set up a basic hip throw off of this, there's a couple of different ways that we can look to do it. The way that I like to approach it to really emphasize the breaking of posture and the off balance, or the Kouchi, which is the most important principle in throwing, is to off balance the person first so that you're relying on technique, not just size and strength. To be able to do that, as we turn here like this, from this over-under position, I want to try to get my head under his head like this to start to affect his spinal alignment that way. As I do that, I'm going to start moving off to the side a little bit over here. I don't want to stay here too long because I don't want Alex to counter me with like a Uchi Mata, which we'll look at in just a moment from here. But from that position, once I get here like this, I want to trap his wrist in my armpit. I want to hold the back of his tricep tendon or elbow this way. And then I'm going to drive my head and my shoulder into him this way over here. As I get his posture broken and I can feel where his weight has shifted to like this, then I'm going to pivot, step my feet in front of him, put my tailbone on his thigh here, and then make the throw just like this. So what's happening here in a springing kind of hip throw, or this major hip throw, is that I get here, I look to off balance him with my head and my shoulder in his armpit. I trap his arm on this far side here. I go to pivot my feet in front of him. I'm hugging around his waist on this one. I step in front, put my tailbone on his thigh over here so that I can lift him, and I get his weight up this way. To finish this, I'm going to turn and look behind me, and I'm going to pull this arm that I have trapped and twist from the trunk this way to be able to throw him in front of me like that. So the next one I want to start to look at is a Koshi Garuma. Koshi Garuma is the head and arm throw. So I'm going to have his arm and his head. We can do this over or under. The way that I like to see this happen, the way I like to do this myself, is going from this kind of direction here. So this is my underhook side now, and the reason I'm showing it this way is so that you can kind of see what's going to happen. I want to threaten, so if this is his underhook side, this leg would usually be a little more forward, and so I want to look like I'm going to do a knee tap off of that. When he sees that, sometimes he'll back that leg up. Now, I don't just want to like touch his leg and expect him to step back. I want to actually kind of grab his leg so he fights me on it. So now I know he's really committed to putting that leg back. When I feel him do that, an option that I have from here is I'm going to take this arm all the way up, and I'm going to hook it around his head. You'll see sometimes people will grab and hold the two hands together like this, or just grab double grip high up on his arm and his shoulder this direction. As I go here now, I'm going to step over and across. This leg here pivots, and this leg comes across, and then I can throw this side over here. So again, from here, we're getting this over-under position this way here. This is my underhook side now. I reach down to try to get his leg. He steps that leg back. When I feel that energy, I'm going to cut over here and across this way, pivot my foot, step over, and then make the throw like that. Now, this is a kind of a head and arm throw. Again, I'm doing a little bit more of a posted style versus a springing style, but this is still in the family of Koshi Garuma. One of the classic kind of archetypes of judo throws, whenever people picture judo in their head, is the Ippon Seoinage. It's the really pretty, very dynamic kind of throw. It loses a little bit of that whenever we don't have the grips for really like clean technique, but we can still use it functionally in this kind of position here without the gi. So if I start this from over under, what I like to do here, because I don't have as strong grips a lot of the time, and if it's got rash guards especially, it's often very slick. So I'm going to go on my the side that he has the underhook on a lot of the time. And this will be a drop Ippon Seoinage variation. So I want to try to get him kind of driving into me here like this. Because when I feel his hips kind of drive into me, and this can also be from one where I've threatened his lead leg here like this, and he steps it back so his hips are piked. And once I have that space underneath, now I have somewhere that I can sit. Now when I try to drop to my knees, I'm going to stay heavy, strong on this wrist here. And this side from over here is going to punch like an uppercut this way here. The reason I like this on this side here is because it's less of a chance of whenever I go into it of him securing like a wrap around my neck and me sacrificing my back. So we go here like this, I get him to pike his hips back, maybe by messing with that leg. And so then as I go to turn, I go down, up, this way here, and then top, and he rolls over that way. So again, if you look at from the other side, we're here like this, maybe messing with his feet, getting him to pike his hips back. When I feel that energy, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna rotate, this foot is gonna back step, and go sideways, back step, and then I'm gonna drop to my knees as this arm comes up, down, and tuck in tight this direction, and then he's underneath me, hopefully I'm on top. Another one that people really like a whole lot is the Kata Garuma. I know I like this one a whole lot, the fireman's carry. So it exists, of course, in wrestling as the fireman's carry. It exists in judo as Kata Garuma, oftentimes either standing or on the knees, or there's also a drop variation, and that's the one that I like because I feel more comfortable with it as I've done it. So whenever we get inside here like this again, what I'm looking for off of this one here is that from this direction, I want at this point to feel as if I can pick his arm up a little bit to be able to duck my head inside. So I'm gonna put my head inside here. I'm still keeping a tight grip on his arm. And as I go, I'm gonna drive this knee in this direction here. I'm gonna shoot inside and I'm pulling my head in. This arm's coming straight up the middle. I'm keeping pulled down tight on his elbow here, pulling outward as well. And now this leg here is gonna collapse here this way. Right? So then I get that fireman's carry across that direction. So when I go to do this one here, I'm going to make sure that his hips are piked back so that I know he's off balance. So however I like to set that up, I see his shoulders over his toes, so I know he's off balance at this point. I'm gonna pull this one open. I'm gonna drop straight down so that my knee comes to the inside here like this. This arm's coming straight up the middle, not just hugging his leg. And I'm pulling down and forward on his elbow this way. This leg slips out here. And then we finish off with that fireman's carry or Kata Garuma. Another really dynamic throw a lot of the time, that's a really fast whipping kind of throw, is Uchi Mata. And so often this is done either with an inner thigh kind of throw, in more of a hopping kind of variation, or it's done dynamic straight up the middle and it gets a little bit more of a springing kind of motion. Both are good, but I feel like if I go for the more up the middle and I'm shallow, I can turn it into the hopping motion. If I go for the more shallow inside, I don't always get to change that into the other one. This is a little bit easier for him to maybe step out if he's very flexible or dynamic. So again, we mentioned in the beginning, toward the beginning, whenever I was talking about the hip throw, this is often a good example of a counter for this one because I'm doing it on his underhook side, on my overhook side. So a lot of times if Alex is looking to feed in here for this hip throw like this, so a good counter for me is whenever he gets more to that sideways position is for me to block him out and then go for my Uchi Mata. So the basics of the Uchi Mata here like this are when he has this underhook established over here, I want to try to get my head inside, and this is going to affect his spinal alignment, and therefore it's going to help me with the off balance. I want this one to be a little bit more against him than it is against me, because if this just gives me a false sense of security, a lot of the time he can pull his arm out if he wants to. I'm not doing anything with that. But what I'm actually trying to do is stop him from getting his arm in any deeper. So my hand is going to be more against his chest, and my head placement here also helps to take care of a lot of that too, but I still want him to stay committed on that side. I'm going to block out on this side over here, and eventually I'm going to slide down and find his wrist on this side here too for the pull. So once we get here, I'm going to pivot this leg here so that my toes go the same direction as his. I want to turn my hips. As my hips turn, I have to pull my head out of direction so that we're both facing the same direction here, kind of parallel. Once that happens here, now I'm going to slide down to the wrist. I keep this one here, and then this leg's going to come up and through and straight up the middle here as if I'm trying to hit my hamstring right up in his groin, because I kind of am. So once we get here like this, if I make a throw here, so a lot of times in competition, you'll see guys that would just roll straight over with that, and that's fine because in judo competition, a throw that big would probably win the entire match. You get a full point, Ippon, game's over. Whereas in jiu-jitsu competition, that's just kind of the beginning of the ground positioning. I might get 2 points for that throw. Regardless of what the throw looks like, I get the 2 points, then the ground grappling begins. So either way, very good throw, really good counter throw. So again, if we get here like this, he's got the underhook. I'm keeping this heavy on him, my arm against him. I'm blocking out here. My head is in position against his neck. I'm going to slide down as I go to pivot and turn this direction. And we come in here this way for my Uchi Mata. All right, guys, so those are kind of some standard judo throws and the way that they apply to a no-gi situation. So again, you contextualize it how you want to. Maybe this is just a straight no-gi submission grappling kind of situation, a no-gi jiu-jitsu tournament. Maybe this is an MMA format. Maybe this is a self-defense context. All these have good application that you can put in a lot of those with slight modifications. But these are kind of the fundamentals of how we can set those up from this over-under position. So I hope you like these. If you have questions, I know I missed a billion different throws that we could look at, and I know some really great ones are out there, but there's only so much you can put in these little short YouTube videos like this. So anyway, I appreciate you guys watching the channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications and all that stuff too, please. I really appreciate your viewership and all that. So thank you guys for watching.